Capital One is one of the hardest lenders to get a credit limit increase from, but after watching this video, you will understand why. Capital One has a process called bucketing. When applying for your Capital One card, you may have noticed they have more than one version of the same card based on your credit worthiness. The 4 different groups are bad, fair, good, and excellent. Not only do they represent your credit score, but they represent different levels of credit risk. Capital One decides what bucket to place you in as soon as you apply for your card. And this bucket will determine how much credit you are approved for and how much they will increase your credit in the future. If you have excellent credit and you apply for the Capital One Quicksilver card, you might start off with an $8,000 limit and get $1,000 credit limit increases over the years. But if you have poor credit and you apply for the Capital One Quicksilver card, you might start off with a limit of $1,000 and get credit limit increases of $100 every few months, or even once a year. Because of this fact, some people might argue that it is better to wait until you have excellent credit before you apply for a Capital One credit card. However, as frustrating as low credit limits may be, if you do have poor credit, it might be easier for you to get approved for a Capital One credit card instead of trying to apply for an Amex card or a Chase card with poor credit, especially if it's your very first credit card. And just because you are in a bucket that doesn't allow for higher credit limit increases now, doesn't mean you have to stay there forever. One sure way to know you are in a low-level bucket with Capital One is if you are constantly being denied credit limit increases, especially if you are able to get credit limit increases on your other cards with other lenders. This is why it's important before you do anything else to go back and see exactly which credit card you applied for. If you go on the Capital One website, you'll notice some cards don't come with welcome offers. You'll also be able to see what credit level the card is made for. If your card is made for people with fair credit and doesn't come with a welcome offer, you are probably placed in a low-level bucket, and that's why you feel it's been impossible to get a credit limit increase. And if that's not enough evidence, you can usually tell what bucket you're in based on the initial credit limit you were assigned, as well as the amount of your increases. Small increases and low credit limits are signs you are in a low-level bucket. I know a lot of people got the Capital One Quicksilver card as their very first credit card and probably have had the account open longer than I have been alive. So if that's the case for you, it makes sense that if you didn't have any previous credit history, they would place you in a lower level bucket. But now that you have more credit history and an excellent credit score, the only way out of this bucket is to apply for a whole new card. It won't be enough just to product change or upgrade to a new card because you will still have the same account and therefore still be in the same bucket. You will need to open up a whole new account with a whole new credit card with Capital One. So if you started with the Capital One Quicksilver One Rewards card for fair credit, you can apply for the Capital One Quicksilver Rewards card or maybe the Venture X card. This will place you in a whole new and hopefully higher bucket where you can get a higher credit limit and get more frequent and higher credit limit increases. This next tip is important and can be applied to other lenders. Make sure you are asking for credit limit increases on your other credit cards even if they are not with Capital One. The reason for this is credit card companies actually look at your limits from other cards and will oftentimes give you a credit limit that mirrors your other limit. So every 3 months, it's safe to ask for a credit limit increase and hopefully you are given one. If you spend a year doing this and raising all your credit limits and then you apply for a new credit card, your starting limit may be much higher than it would have been if you just kept all your credit card limits how they currently are. It's also possible that you might not even need to manually ask for a credit limit increase if you are using your card frequently and putting lots of purchases on that one card. Back when I was 18 and I was only using my Discover It cashback card, I never got a single increase in over a year of having the card until I started using my card every single day, or basically every single day. It was multiple times a week for sure. And then after that, I started to get automatic credit limit increases every few months. And you don't necessarily need to be using 30% or more of your credit limit in order to get credit limit increases. Every time you swipe your credit card, the credit card company makes money from interchange fees. An interchange fee is a 2 to 3% charge that credit card companies charge retailers whenever you make a purchase with your credit card. Simply using your card frequently might be enough to get you that credit limit increase even if you are not using a large percentage of your current credit limit. The third tip is to apply for a completely new credit card with Capital One, and this time make sure the card you apply for is for people with excellent credit. And I hope this goes without saying, but you will actually need excellent credit in order for this to work. And if you are ever unsure about whether or not you will be approved, it's always a good idea to use the pre-approval tool that they have on the website. In order to make sure you choose the right card, look for a card that comes with a lot of different benefits. For example, if you look at the Capital One Saver cards, you'll see there are 3 different options. You'll notice that the benefits of each card are slightly different. For example, the Saver One Rewards for Good Credit card has the same multipliers as the Saver One Rewards card, but the Saver One Rewards for Good Credit card does not come with a new card member offer. The interest rate on this card is also slightly higher than the other 2 cards. So in this case, I would choose the Saver One Rewards card because you'll get the new card member offer as well as 15 months with 0% interest. And at the top, you'll notice how one card is for people with good credit and the other card is for people with excellent credit. This is likely a representation of 2 different buckets and can very well impact your starting credit limit. And this next tip has to do with the credit line increase form. The first tip is that if you are self-employed, make sure that you don't state that you are self-employed. If you have stated that you are self-employed before and have not noticed any restrictions or had any trouble raising your credit limit thus far, then you might not need to apply this tip, but it can be a good decision and be pretty wise to say that you are employed at your business instead of being self-employed. This is because being self-employed looks unstable to the lender. If you are self-employed and you've ever tried to buy a house or a car or make some sort of big purchase, then you know how hard it is or how hard it can be for businesses to believe that your money is legit and to just trust you in general. Someone I know who's self-employed just bought a house and it was so difficult and the process took 3 times as longer as it would have been if that person was employed at a 9-to-5, but since they were an entrepreneur, it took so much longer, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me because people are losing their jobs left and right, especially nowadays. So but that's just what it is. But anyway, for example, if your business is called Harry's Shoe Store, then you will say that you can be a manager, you can give yourself whatever role you would like. You can be a manager at Harry's Shoe Store instead of saying that you are the owner of Harry's Shoe Store. The next tip is when they ask you what your projected monthly spending will be, make sure that your monthly spending is actually increasing. You might still be able to get an increase if your monthly spending has not changed, but for the best odds and the best chances of getting approved for a higher credit limit, especially if you are asking for 3 times your current credit limit, try to make sure your monthly expenses are also increasing. Explaining that your monthly expenses are increasing is going to be a great way to ensure you get that increase, because that means you're going to be swiping your card more often, which means you are going to be making the credit card company a lot more money. And here goes a bonus, okay? If your credit limit increase is denied, it could be that you're currently carrying a balance on the card you're applying for an increase on, or because you are carrying balances on cards that you have with a different lender. Credit card companies are trying to manage their risk, so them approving you for more credit when you still haven't paid them back yet is probably not going to happen. And again, this might still affect you if you are asking for a credit limit increase with Capital One, but you are carrying a large balance on your Chase card. But that is it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.